legacy before you go. The same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
Live from virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, we welcome race fans one and all to race number 28 here in the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series for what will be the middle race in the round of 8 here tonight. Hello one and all, and welcome here to the show for tonight's run in the Homestead 200. My name is Lorenzo with Terry Radford beside me in the broadcast booth, and Joshua Lee down behind the cameras once again for tonight's race. Evan Pasoko not able to join us here tonight, but you will no doubt be watching on from where he is currently over in California. For now, though, it's bound to be one exciting night of racing here as we get set to once again see if we'll have one of our other top 4 drivers locked into tonight's race, Terry, over into that round of 4. Coming up in very quick order, only 3 weeks away on that first November race over on the 7th, where we'll finish it all off at Phoenix. But for now, it's Homestead. I would say the last proper regular series race before we get ready to really bang it up over at Martinsville.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what it is. Sam Nieto actually led practice, but you see the playoff grid here. Kevin King's already advanced his way in for the win at Las Vegas. He comes to Homestead with nothing to lose. He was second on the speed charts there. Real close between Harris and Danson. Silver's still in there. Casto's still in there, but Andrew Freenosh is going to have to win in order to transfer to Phoenix.
Currently, Matt Danson sits just 2 points up from Cody Harris, right on that cut line, and only another 4 points back from there is Nick Silver. 2 more from there is Sean Casto, Andrew Freenosh. We talked about him last week. Currently 16, make that 18 points back from Danson. With only a 22-car grid here tonight at Homestead, pretty much in a must-win situation at the moment for your current defending champion. But you mentioned Kevin King getting his 7th win of the season just last week over the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And now looks set to just take it nice and easy here tonight. He is the first driver that was locked into the round of 4. We'll see if Phillip, Nieto, or Danson will be able to lock their way in here tonight. Those are the drivers currently within that playoff cup board. It's going to be a fun race tonight. 134 laps for 200 miles around the southernmost racetrack on the NASCAR calendar. And, of course, these drivers are going to have to work every inch of it. So far, Homestead has been one of those tracks where it has been easy to get loose early on. But, hey, when isn't it? It seems like this is always one of those racetracks that is very slick early on, and it tends to get a little bit tighter as the run slickens off. That was until these new next-gen cars came around. Now it might look like Tokyo Drift off of some of these corners when you get towards the end of the fuel runs.
Yeah, we'll go 134 laps with no fast repairs. You saw them there in the race information. This is going to be entertaining. I've seen people on Twitter all weekend long crying and complaining because, where's Homestead at? Whatever. You can't get that. You got to race the bottom. Okay, stop whining. Just race it. Get over it. If you don't like the next gen, go race the Gen 6 where apparently all the racing was at. We'll see here in RSR competition, though. I saw people in practice. They were all the way up against the wall doing what Kyle Larson did yesterday. So maybe if you don't like the league that you're in because the racing stinks, come race over here where it's better.
13 of the 22 cars have set times so far as we are in the middle of qualifying here for the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series Homestead 200 from Homestead Miami Speedway. Freenage, the driver in that critical position, currently has provisional pole, but not by much. Only 17 thousandths of a second up from Magno Phillip. Cody Harris locks out a now 1, 2, 3, 4 of playoff drivers as Matt Danson has just gone third quickest. The top 5 all separated by under 1/10 of a second, and Michael Johnson will be exactly 1/10 of a second behind. Kevin King so far the slowest driver out there, 0.7 of a second back, but obviously King was running that outside lane a little while ago, and now he's going to put himself up on provisional pole by going 2 thou quicker than Andrew Freenage. How about Nieto, though? He just went 5th fastest on the timing boards as well.
Yeah, he had a really good run right there. Tom Wetmore comes in. He puts himself in the P5 position. Looking at Danson there for a second, he's in 4th. He wasn't very fast in practice. He was down in the 11th place position. He set 13th pretty much all the practice session until the very end when he went and set a time down. But he always seems to show up when he really needs to. As you see Bradley Burke right here, he's going to be 18th, and he's going to be content where he's sitting at. You see Matt Danson currently tracking slower than where he was at, and he's going to stay in the 4th place position here as he puts his other lap on the board. I think everybody else is done. Nobody else wants to qualify here.
Tom Wetmore currently just putting a few extra practice laps in, as is Matt Danson, and hey, why not? You've already got yourself on the grid. You know you're going to be where you're going to be starting. You may as well just take that a little bit to get some of that last-minute practice in as the seconds continue to wind down from Homestead Miami Speedway. It's bound to be an exciting race, though, tonight. Homestead Miami Speedway is one of those tracks where the excitement has always been in the strategy, right? It's one of those facilities where it's not the easiest to pass so far, and we're going to be seeing that, especially as we get deeper and deeper into the win tonight. And as you can see, Freenage looking to be the driver to beat. He and Brandon Bowie, actually, they are the 2 repeat winners we've had so far. Bowie in 2021 and 2017, Freenage back-to-back in 2019 and 2018. Michael Araya, kind of the odd one out here, all the way back in 2020. Of course, at the moment, Araya qualified down in the 11th place, but Bowie sitting in the top 10 and 8th, with Andrew Freenage going to be on that front row. Qualifying, though, has wrapped up in the meantime. We've got 1 minute yet here before we'll get over to the race itself, as drivers will once again just get that last little bit of warm-up in. But you've had a bit of a host of winners here, but over the last 5 years, only 3 drivers have won this race, and among those is one of our defending champions, along with one of the drivers we think might be in with a shot here to win the title this season as well. So how do you think that might shake up into tonight's 134-lap race?
Well, I think if you're outside that playoff cut line, you're not going to throw caution to the wind. You're not going to be like throwing a Hail Mary off the initial jump, but you've already seen who's fast. You already saw the drivers who were fast in qualifying. You saw the drivers who were fast in practice. Now you kind of got to be on your best behavior. I mean, you go through this race, there's only 8 of them that are in the playoffs. The rest of the 22-car field is not. So I think you got to be aggressive, but you also have to be more reserved. You can't necessarily go out there and shoot it down at the bottom and go for the slide job off the jump. But so these drivers are a whole lot more aggressive than I know.
And no doubt they will be qualifying and warm-up, get themselves fully wrapped on up. So with that, it's time to run it down for your Kalis Synthetics starting grid for the Homestead 200. Kevin King is on pole position with Andrew Friedrich just 0.02 of a second back on that front row. Agnew Phillip, one of the other playoff drivers, will be starting down in third place at the moment with Matt Danson, one of the oval winners so far this season. He will be starting down at fourth, just 33 thousandths back. Tom Wetmore is the first non-playoff driver we have here in this field down in fifth, with San Nieto back in sixth.
We got Cody Harris back there in seventh, Brandon Bowie, Michael Johnson, Sean Casto. Rounds out your top 10 with Michael Araya and Nick Silver. That's your top 12.
Ross Cato's going to be back in 13th place with Brandon Fetterplace in 14th. Bunazzi Major will be starting in 15th with William Schmidt just over a quarter second out in 16th. Grant Davis is 17th, but Bradley Burke 0.6 of a second back at 18th. He's the last driver to put down a qualifying lap.
You got Dylan Jones, Daniel Eberhardt, Eric Stanford, Eric Papineau, Harry Grindell rounds out the 23-car field here this afternoon. Nolan.
23 cars getting ready to rumble away here. Eric Papineau has not started on up just yet. I don't believe he entered the session in time. So as the field starts to roll off, that was your Kalis Synthetics starting grid. Kalis Synthetics is an independent dealer of AMSOIL lubricants, serving the United States and Canada, providing custom-engine lubrication solutions to all types of customers, from private individuals to race teams, hauling fleets, and everything in between. They have the products and expertise to help you save time and money. Dealer number 30071815. Field is heading down the back straight for the one and only time before we go green flag racing. Playoff drivers locking out the entirety of the top 5. I reckon we're going to be having ourselves an aggressive start here as the field will take their way through turns 3 and 4. Once again, Eric Papineau, the only driver not to make it up to the starting grid. He'll be having to start this race back from pit row. So not an ideal start for the number 37 car, but for now, we're happy that you're joining us here on a beautiful Monday night as we get set to kick off another round in full throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series playoff action. Pace cars down and in, leaving it in the hands of the iRacing starter. Kevin King enters the Geico restart zone. We're underway from Miami. And wrecking already in the background, Lariah around and in front of the field, washing up into Ross Cato. Harry Grindell somehow avoids him. How that was not a massive wreck, I have no idea.
Good save. Didn't look like he hit anything either. The damage is minimum, even if he did. So nothing too wild right there. But back up here at the front, Andrew Friedrich is doing exactly what he needs to do. He has to win the race. He's not going to go out here and outrun them the entire time. He's going to have to go win the race to solidify his chance and his opportunity to get in the playoffs.
Kevin King leads the first lap to green. We're double file deeper through the field from fourth on back to the top 3 starting to break away. The inside lane getting pinched in while it is still an opportune line. Bowie working with Nieto on the top shelf. Cody Harris thinking about making it 3 wide down to the turn numbers 3 and 4. Not going to opt for it though. The 28 car going to tuck it in line. Danson forcing a gap between himself and Sean Casto as we run it back down off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway.
Yeah, that outside lane's actually starting to be more of an advantage. You see Brandon Bowie's going to work the outside too around Tom Wetmore. Cody Harris is going to put himself up there as well. So the outside lane's starting to work. And, you know, do you see people in the third lane as well? I go back to my point earlier, people whining on social media about there's not multi-grooves here at Homestead on the iRacing platform. Well, we're 3 laps in, and we're 3 wide, and we're moving 3 different lanes.
As Ross Cato continues to work that outside lane, going to see if we can get a quick look back on what happened coming to the green flag. Back to Lariah and Ross Cato that saw themselves stumbling down and out of the pace with this field, as it was quite the mess for Lariah as he got set to take that green flag. I think he might have gotten run over from behind, just caught up in wheel spin on the initial jump as the field took it to the green flag, and it was a check from Johnson. He did get some help from Cato, shot him sideways, though, right back in front of the field. Cato locked it down. What a good save there. No caution. We did keep it green, but we're still in a madhouse here. Off of turn number 4, back down the front straightaway. Freenosh is to the race lead. Kevin King battling back into turn 1.
Yeah, Freenosh took that lead on the outside lane, and now he has Kevin King going back down to the bottom. This has been a good battle. I mean, it's 2x2 all the way back to 6th, and they're trying to go 2x2 right now for 7th. But you see the live Catlett synthetic leader or standings there as Brandon Bowie takes it 3 wide into turn 3. That was a bold move, and he's not a playoff driver, so he can do whatever he wants to do with the tires. But with Andrew Freenosh leading the race, that moved Harris out of the playoffs. That moved Danson out of the playoffs even more, and it put Sam Nieto on the cut line there.
Scrambling to the top side is Sean Casto, trying to make moves early on board with Kevin King as he is getting bogged down on that inside lane. You see the outside's got all the momentum as Phillip shoves Freenosh down to turn number 3. Sean Cass, meanwhile, made up 7 positions from the exit of turn 2 in the mad dash down into turn numbers 3 and 4. He's about to pick up 2 more as he runs that Larson line off turn number 4 wide for a brief moment down the front straightaway. Kevin King fighting back as Casto shoves his way to 2nd. Phillip bogged down to the middle. King running to the bottom. Freenosh way up top will back out. Sean Casto, though, clearly not saving tires at all. He's going for the racing around the outside of Brandon Bowie.
Well, he was one of those drivers that we circled early in this race that we were like, hey, this guy, you got to do something. You see when he took this race lead with the live playoff standings over there to the outside, to the right side of the screen, it moves Harris. It moves Danson out by almost 10. I believe that's 8 points. It sets him out to Nieto. This field size has started to shrink, so your margin for error has kind of went away. I mean, you're necessarily better hope that you take a playoff driver out with you. If you wreck single-handedly, you want somebody to be with you somewhere down there, and then you stay on the racetrack for it. Same thing we saw with Freenosh. He got wrecked last week, came back on the racetrack, salvaged some points, gained 3. So if 3 points is what separates him from getting in and out, it's not from a lack of effort. He just had some bad luck, as you still see 3 wide right there, and well, there's 3 wide everywhere.
That's part of what the fake setups will do for you here at Homestead Miami Speedway. It really does cause this field to kind of get bogged down and focus only on battle amongst themselves instead of racing the racetrack, as Nazi Major gets set to try to take it around the outside lane here down in the turn numbers 3 and 4. That inside line just does not have a whole lot of speed. Outside is where it's at, but you do burn up your tires a fair bit more when you're running that outside line, so it's something you gotta kind of take a bit carefully when you're running that high up the track. Cass has pulled out already over an 0.8 of a second lead over Kevin King, as now Minazzi Major trying to follow suit, but Dylan Jones wanting to one-up the both of them, as Jones has to slam on the binders. He's going to get cut off by Major and King from his run off of turn 2 down that back straightaway. Outside by the wall is where all the speed is, but you got to know when to make those moves early. I have a feeling that some of these guys might be pushed a bit too hard for these tires to handle it so early on.
Well, I mean, early on in the run, you're right. You don't want to push them to the very limit, but look at the drivers who are on the outside. Non-playoff driver, non-playoff driver, non-playoff driver. There's 5 of them up there. They don't care about what's on the bottom. They don't care what's in the middle. They want to win the race, and their best opportunity is to go where they're not. So if you get up there on the high side and you see this top 10, there's only 3 of them, 4 of them in the playoffs that are in this position to round out a top 10 right now. Why not? Why not jump up there and make some hay happen? Because if the caution comes out, well, you just jumped everybody, and then tires don't really matter. You'll all come down pit lane and change them together. But you see, who is that? Eric Stanford jumping to the outside right there above Kevin King, who has been purple. He is locked in from last week. So he really doesn't care. He could wreck right now, and he's going to be just fine. He's racing for a title.
because of all this side-by-side battling up the field, Ross Cato, Michael Araya, who had dropped 8 and 9 seconds back from this field respectively as a result of that early race incident right when they were coming to the green flag, they have now caught right back up to the tail of this field, and in fact now starting to work their way up through the field as well, really showing just how much these guys are slowing each other down by racing in such a manner like this, but it's putting on a good show thus far. Now you start to see two very distinctive lanes start to form. You've got the one way at the bottom and the one way up top. That line where you try to kind of pinch them down from the middle groove, it really does work wonders on the first section of laps. It's not going to work though throughout the entirety of this race. Sooner or later you are going to have those two lines. You either got wall or apron, take your pick, and more drivers will be gravitated up higher and higher up the racetrack as the tires start to wear down.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see the transition that happens throughout this race. I mean, it's 105-degree track temp, for goodness sake. So it's not like you can escape from the slidiness of the car. It's not going to be a thing. You're gonna see it all race long. So you see Daniel Eberhardt right here trying to make the pass from now and Eric Stanford on the bottom, and then you see Manatzi Major. He's trying to make a move right now on Dylan Jones with different colors from Manatzi Major this week, so it kind of threw me off with the Valvoline scheme.
Three wide up on the top, maybe. Eric Stanford going to lift out at the last second to allow Dylan Jones to come up to the wall. Manatzi Major being given a push by Daniel Eberhardt down into turn number 3, and Jones trying to control both lines by running that middle groove, making sure that Major suffers from the dirty air, but also making sure Stanford can't get a good drive up from the top shelf. And now you can already see Casto continuing to expand his lead, now up over a second and a quarter from Dylan Jones. But now that Jones has broken clear from Eberhard, Major, and the others, I think he might be able to find himself running down Sean Casto a little bit more for the race lead now that he's not going to have to worry about these cars behind him. I think Manatzi Major might be pushing his luck by running so many of those laps way up by that wall. He's got a lot of the speed, but you can tell every time he exits one of these corners, that run that he gets already is starting to nullify itself as Eric Stanford hugs him up to that outside wall, trying to make sure he can't get a nose in to pinch him back down to the inside line.
Yeah, you saw Dylan Jones right there in the P2 position. He came off the corner right in front of Daniel Eberhardt. Oh, big wreck, and that's Cody Harris involved. And Tom Wetmore.
Two of our playoff hopefuls involved in this one, and it was with help, I believe, for Tom Wetmore. This would have been on entry to turn number 1, and it looks like Matt Danson would have a hand to play in this. So make that 3 of your playoff contenders involved. It was a shot from Danson to Wetmore. Wetmore tried to save it, came back up the track. Silver scrambled, and Harris just left with nowhere to go. It looks like Fetter Place might have also collected a small piece of the back bumper of the 28, but not enough to inflict any sort of visual damage on that 28 car. But not a good run for Harris and Wetmore. The only good news here, it wasn't that hard of a hit. They should be able to get back up and running in this thing before too long.
Yeah, not too crazy. Wetmore eliminated in the last round. Not playoff eligible here. Still has the banner on, but small contact made there, and then it's just a chain reaction from there on back for Cody Harris and Wetmore. No harm, no foul, no damage on it. Go get tires. Everybody will equal themselves back out, and we'll have a little crazier of a race.
Matt Danson in a bit of a discussion, I think is the polite way of putting it at the moment, with Tom Wetmore about who was at fault. Danson has taken the responsibility. I think that's more, though, him just being safe. I'll get back on what I mean by that in just a moment. Well, we have green flag pit stops underway. Nick Silver, interestingly enough, staying out. He will now lead the field as Kevin King led the rest of these drivers down to pit road. It's looking like 4 tires and fuel is going to be the case for just about everybody so far in this field. Jones already off and away. So is the 52 car of Sean Casto. Casto's going to be the first one out of pit road, and I believe he was just that much quicker getting into his box, as Casto going to be way up and clear. Kevin King all the way back down to 6th, so your pole sitter not having the best of runs so far. Casto, though, first in, first out. No real surprise there. He'll catch up to Nick Silver, who still leads the train.
Let's look at the leaderboard here for a second when it comes to gaining positions on the racetrack. I'm taking Nick Silver out of it, right? Nick Silver doesn't count. He stayed on the racetrack, whatever. That would be 9 positions before the caution flag came out for Casto. 17 for Daniel Jones, 17 for Eberhard, 17 for Eric Stanford as Nick Silver now finally comes down the pit lane. So now we see an accurate representation of all of these drivers right here and what they've done in the early part. And I literally just said 3 laps ago that a caution changes it. Yeah, their tires are going to get burned up. Who cares? Caution comes out, we recycle this thing, and now you have the track position. Now we can actually see. For Sean Casto, did your best lap time in the 33.65, did it mean something? Or was it just you being aggressive on the outside? Or did you actually have speed with the track position? So we'll have comers and goers today. We'll see people who rip that outside lane well on fresh tires that have all the grip in the world taking that wall. And we're going to have the people who can come up here and actually hold it. I think the 52 can. I'm not too sure about everybody else.
So I mentioned that Matt Danson was possibly being savior on this one, and I think that is due in part to the fact that Danson, of course, is a playoff driver. He doesn't believe he was at fault based on what he was saying on the radio. He thinks he was wrong by having Wetmore turned down left across his nose. But he has to take responsibility because that's going to get him sent just at the end of the line. I think that's why he did that, is because that is only an end of the longest line penalty. Remember, if you don't claim an incident and you're found at fault for it, it is a significant points penalty. So for Danson, being only 2 points up from the cut line at the moment, he can't afford to be taking those kinds of point penalties. So that's why he is being safe and taking that EOL now. Unfortunately, this means that if he does end up getting caught up in an incident that is indefinitely his fault later on in this race, it's going to be a one-lap stop and hold, which will almost certainly put him out of the running for a good point stay here.
Yeah, and this... I've been saying for weeks that I think if we're throwing a hot take out there of who's not making the championship for, it's been the 38 for me all along. I've had spirited discussions with him in a Discord. I think it's him. I look at everybody else in the playoff running. They're not running too great either. So you can't necessarily throw anybody out there and go, okay, they're outrunning him. Castro's outrunning him because he jumped on the outside and made it stick, got the lead. Kevin King doesn't care. He's racing for whatever. Agnell Phillips outran him. Sam Nieto's outran him. Andrew Freenach had bad luck last week. He has to outrun him today, which is going to throw a big wrench in it if he comes from ninth to first to win it.
Field's coming around through turns 3 and 4. We get set to go back green flag racing this time around. Sean Casto on the outside line. Dylan Jones on the inside. Casto launches well. Clear by 1.5 already. Make it 2 as we thunder down to turn number 1.
You see side by side there for that's to be the 4th place position all the way back there with Eric Stanford and Kevin King. With Casto, Jones, and Eberhard, they get single file strung out pretty quick here. We'll see who can give the runs down there, and we'll see who's the first person to jump to the 3rd line. And potentially go up here and see if they could rock it in the corner, and it might be the 19 of Stanford. Here he is all the way up there in Minotzi Major.
You got Sam Nieto as well, trying to find a way through in the route and racing for Mustang. Can't find a hole, though, in that middle line. Phillip trying to see if he can take a swing at it as he's trying to force Kevin King to check up from the bottom, and check up Kevin King will as he gets caught by the dirty air. Eric Stanford running the outside lane to try to build up a small advantage over the 851 Pro Chevrolet down to turn numbers 3 and 4. Bowie's now taking it to the outside line. He'll get around Kevin King. It's so far not going King's way, but I think you mentioned it before. He doesn't really have to worry too much about where he finishes here, considering he's already more than locked in. He's just got to, I guess, ride around and just finish the race. He doesn't even have to finish. He can pull off right now and he'd still be locked in.
Yeah, he really doesn't have to do anything wild. He could ride around, finish 10th, finish 15th, finish 20th. Doesn't matter. I'm sure his focus has also been to Phoenix. I mean, he said it was his best racetrack. So at no point in time is he, I don't think he's even thinking maybe I could win this race. Probably didn't even put much practice into it. I know he ran FTF. That might have been the only practice he had, but this is different competition over here than it is there. So you really never know. But I would imagine if I was him, I'm focused on Phoenix. I'm taking this car around here, seeing what the shifting points are going to be. You know, how much gas can I give it through the corner to be the most dominant person is Brandon Bowie. He's looking underneath the 19 of Eric Stanford.
Making that look underneath Eric Stanford, being held up a little bit, though, by Daniel Eberhard in the SK Sim Racing Battle Beaver for Mustang. And he's going to actually lift off and allow Bowie through, and Eberhard continued to slow, checked out to about 149 miles an hour down the front straight there. In comparison, Bowie had hit 178, so Daniel Eberhard really not wanting to risk fighting these guys out. You have to wonder, maybe he was letting his SK Sim Racing teammate have a bit of a crack at Brandon Bowie up there, realized he wasn't going to be able to fight him out, so he allowed Stanford to get the move on up ahead. And meanwhile, Dylan Jones and others still slicing and dicing here in the midfield, as once again the top four started to break away. Again, the powers of dirty air that it be at Homestead Miami Speedway put on full display by the gap times over on the left-hand side of your screens on the Kalis Synthetics leaderboard.
When you see all the way back here, Andrew Freenage is blocking Kevin King. You got Harry Grandel going side by side with Dylan Jones. We're trying to get that position, trying to get around Nick Silver. All of these drivers back here in this little pack with Sam Nieto leading it now. Michael Araya all the way to that outside. The first driver we saw going around in this race on the initial start has worked his way up to the top 5. So nice rebound for that driver, 27 laps in. Not the race that I thought it would be, though. I kind of expected everybody to just be calm, cool, and collective on the bottom, and then get kind of crazy towards the end, but they haven't done that yet.
Things starting to get a little bit more single filed out throughout the field now, as it always takes those first few laps of just constant chaos for drivers to kind of figure out where they're going to be sitting in the larger rhythm of things once the race properly gets underway, as Brandon Bowie and Eric Stanford continue to just kind of run nose to tail at the moment through turns 1 and 2. They have started to close on Sean Casto. That gap down to 0.6 of a second, and already closing in by over a tenth by the time they get halfway down that back straightaway. So Sean Casto's lead is certainly under threat at the moment. Kevin King, meanwhile, trying to stop the bleeding, as he and Andrew Freenage have both fallen significantly in the running order, and they are now sitting right around 13th and 14th place respectively, as Ross Cato's right behind them. You can see the live standings over on the left or right-hand side, excuse me, of your screens. Nieto and Phillip have actually moved up, and Matt Danson, as a result of that incident, currently sits 7th and is still out. Freenage, though, still not in a good position at the moment. At the moment, he is sitting 24 points back from San Vieto, basically confirming that he's in the must-win situation. Up the road, Brandon Bowie, you can see him up alongside race leader Sean Casto and through in turn 4.
Yeah, you got that race lead, but you look at Freenage. I mean, it's a really good driver. Really talented, really knows how to do it, but the next-gen cars really hasn't been what he's looked for. He's talked about it throughout the season. These cars have been a challenge. They haven't allowed him to do what he's did for the previous seasons that he's won here in RSR competition. He's out looking in now, and now he has to hope, okay, can I get a win here? And if he can't get a win here, he has to go to Martinsville, which we all know you cannot make a case and say that Martinsville is going to be a good race. We haven't seen it in the next-gen cars. We haven't seen a short track race that has been good. We haven't seen very many passes happen there. So if you're Andrew Freenage, you go into next week and go, okay, if I qualify on pole, I have a really good chance of winning. You have about a 95% chance of winning, because who's going to pass you? You have to beat yourself. But it's going to come down to how bad does he want it and how much did he practice.
Brandon Fairplay's kind of fallen into the tire tracks of Ross Cato as he continues to work his way around that outside line up the road. Up on top is Minazzi Major trying to overtake San Vieto from the bottom lane at the moment. Meanwhile, Eric Stanford retaking the race lead back as we're in a fierce fight for your race lead currently. Bowie's going to lose 2 as he's going to allow Daniel Everhart through. Locking it out for SK Sim Racing in a 1-2 at the moment. The Battle Beaver Mustang now trying to keep the number 34 Toyota Camry at bay, and it looks like they will do so. So now Stanford and Everhart are cleared to just work together to start to extend their gap on this field. They're already 4/10 clear of Brandon Bowie and certainly growing. So it didn't take long for Stanford to get his way back to the front and stay there. All he had to do was wait for a teammate to get hooked up with him. You have to wonder if maybe that's what he was waiting for. And in fact, looks like they're going to go for the swap here as Everhart's going to look to the inside. Or maybe, just maybe, that number 90 car is done playing teammates now that they're clear of second place.
Yeah, 2 non-playoff drivers going for a position here, and Everhart's going to go for the race lead. He's going to take it. The thing about Everhart is, well, if he wouldn't have had bad luck, he potentially would have been a playoff driver. Couple of that with a suspension for some races this season, and then just getting swept up in other people's messes. He won the necessary amount of races to get into the playoffs, and he did what he had to do, but couldn't stay out of trouble. So cost him from being a part of these playoff runs. But you see Michael Araya on the outside of Casto. Casto was the early dominator of this race, jumped up front, led majority of it, at least in the first 36 laps of this event. Now he's starting to slide back some more here as they go into 1.
Sliding back that little bit further as the gap is somewhat stabilized now between Stanford and Bowie. So it looks like Bowie's trying to find his rhythm. He's not losing time right now, but the problem is he's not gaining anything either. So he's got to see if we can find maybe that one better line than your top 2 are running currently. If he's going to have a shot on trying to work his way up there before he loses that draft. Everhart has pulled clear by about 0.3 of a second over Eric Stanford. Meanwhile, Nieto still embroiled in this battle with the Valvoline number 82 Chevrolet. You've also got Nick Silver just kind of hanging around behind of the Race Labs Mustang, and Castell has pulled clear of both of these drivers. Remember when Sean Castell had himself a solid run early in this race? Well, now he is the one that seems to be struggling in this one, as he has not been able to work his way up through the field all that much. And in fact, it looks like he might be losing a little bit of time here back to San Diego.
Yeah, he is starting to fall back just a tad bit. He's fallen away from Lariah, working back here to Nick Silver and Sam Nieto's way. I mean, he jumped to that outside early on, and then once he had the lead, he really was hard to catch. He swapped back down to the bottom after he ran the outside lane for multiple laps, and now everybody's tucked back down to the bottom. Nobody wanting to go up there. Nieto jumps up to the second groove with Nick Silver right behind him, and Castro, who's going to jump up there and maybe see if he can, rekindle some of what he saw before. But this is a little bit weird for a Homestead race to only see 3 of the 8 playoff drivers inside the top 10. Now make it 4 as Agnell Phillip gets around Harry Grindell for the 10th place position.
I'm more with Silver as he tries to charge off after San Diego and not looking to make a move, although Nieto might leave the door open for him here. Leave the door open. Silver trying to see if he can turn that crack into a proper opening. Not able to do so, at least not unless he wanted to turn the number 2 car in the middle of the final couple of corners, but that's a really good way to get yourself sent to the tail of the longest line really, really quickly. So he's going to ride around for now, and I think for the first time all race long we are actually single filed out for everybody in this field, or at least we were, until Harry Grindell pulled off to the inside of Andrew Freenosh. Meanwhile, still got a couple of these guys trying to pull away, like Daniel Everhart, now 6.5 of a second clear of teammate Eric Stanford. Stanford, meanwhile, 1.2 seconds clear of Brandon Bowie in the run down into turn numbers 1 and 2. How about Castell and Lariah? Might see a change in hands here pretty soon. The Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet starting to hold up Castell and co here.
Yeah, you see this battle going on. Castell caught to the back bumper of Lariah. He caught him about a lap and a half ago, and he's trying to make that pass on the outside. He went up to the 3rd groove all the way up to the tip top of this racetrack. And he's going to use the tow from Brandon Bowie down the front straightaway. And he'll let Nieto and Silver jump up there to the outside too, and have the 3 playoff drivers getting ready to go. And Nick Silver, he's going to go all the way out there and try to make this 3 wide and make this work. As he couldn't make it 3 wide, but he will make it 2 wide. Try to get Lariah and Nieto at the same time, and he does move him up to the 5th place position. All the racing really getting here as we're about, what, 20-something laps away from halfway?
Somewhere around there, and caution is out. Eberhard, the race leader, washing up the racetrack, and now stopped in the middle of the track. We are able to get ourselves sorted, and again, somehow we avoid catastrophe on the front straightaway, as that could have been nasty, but race leader Daniel Eberhard going around off of turn number 4, just lost him by himself and overcorrected right back up into traffic and locked it down, and it was a good job from this field to avoid it. That could have been a nasty wreck and almost certainly would have ended somebody's day in the process.
I think he was practicing for early. He was practicing a little too early for what he had going on. Maybe he was predicting a win. Maybe that's what he's predicting. He's like, I'm gonna win. It doesn't even matter. I might as well just pull my best Kyle Larson impersonation. I'll go spinning. I'll go spinning down the front straightaway. Hey, who knows? Maybe reading too much into it there. They're on pit road, and Brandon Bowie leads them in.
So down into pit road, these guys are using their 2nd of 4 tires that they have here, but we're not even halfway through this race. We've still got 90 laps to go at the line. It seems early to be wanting to take a pit stop this early on for tires, but it's going to be another set of 4. I think the fact that it was a self-spin that brought this caution out might be encouraging some people to come on down and pick up those tires. Eberhard, unsurprisingly, has taken responsibility for that incident, although considering he self-spun all the way to the back of the field, it's a bit of a moot point. He's going to be given that EOL anyway, even though he's already sitting here in the back. Stanford's first one out. Danson sits in 2nd, and Bowie will round out in 3rd place for now. So Eberhard's going to have a long way to go, but considering how much he was pulling away, we could be seeing a bit of a charge of the field here in a minute.
Oh, indeed. And you see Eric Stanford, he stayed on the racetrack. Matt Danson came down, drove through the pits. They'll come back down here. I would believe this is just a good strategy call to sit in the back. Maybe don't take tires, potentially just take fuel only. Go back there and save a set in regards if we do have a late race caution that comes out. But Brandon Bowie takes the race lead back with Casto, Silver, Nieto, and Lariah in your top 5. This has been a uneventful race so far for 45 laps at Miami.
I wouldn't say entirely uneventful. We've had a couple of cautions, and we've had ourselves a lot of good racing, though. We've had a lot of passes, 3 wide, 4 wide, even at one particular point on the racetrack. Everybody's still on the lead lap, which is always good to see, despite having 2 cautions. And nobody with damage that so far hasn't been able to be fixed under that 1 yellow flag. So it'll be Bowie to lead from Casto, from Silver, from Nieto for your top 2 rows, as the number 34 car will get set to take it around. Turns 3 and 4 will lead us back to the green flag for our 3rd start here of the night. Car's way at the back of the field just now, catching back up. Pace car is going to pull down and in. Brandon Bowie going to be taking us to the Geico restart zone. Watching well, we're back off and away.
You see the green flag come back out here. Wonderful camera angles from our beautiful producer dude, Joshua Lee.
Wide down the back straightaway. Freenos trapped in the middle of Major and King as we run down through 3 and 4. Castill washed up the track in turn 4 as well, as Couple of guys going 3 wide deeper in the field here as well as we hit that front straight once more. Brandon Bowie leads that first lap back, but Silver trying to make sure he doesn't lead for too long, as it's once again a hornet's nest as always on these restarts here. Friedrich trying to run with Kevin King up to the top shelf and overtake from Munatsi Major, as not going to be able to get there. Here comes Friedrich looking around the outside line of the 82 car, trying to move himself back up through this field, but the 88 still struggling with that car, not able to find speed on corner exit. He'll have the draft of the Edo to help him out down that front straightaway.
Yeah, he kind of haven't figured out what that middle lane can do, as you see the battle up here for P2 with Lariah and Nick Silver. No surprise between Lariah and Brandon Bowie sitting up here leading this race. They both had some speed throughout the season. Both have been very good in the playoffs as well. Just at some points not good enough. Some tracks really didn't fit their style. They come to a place like this that really does. It fits in the image that they race in. Aggressive, slick, has to control the race car. And it's a perfect racetrack for this two to capitalize on. No surprise to see them 1-2 as Nick Silver's in this conversation as well. And you have to see the playoff board right here. Nick Silver sits in the P3 position. Well, that puts Casto, Harris out, and that would make the top 4 Silver, Nieto, Phillip, and King, which would be an interesting 4 going into Martinsville next week.
Coming off of turn number 4, I think this is one of those races where you really have to kind of get your ducks in a row here quickly if you wanted to get yourself sorted. Here's a replay of something that took place just a little while ago on the front straightaway. This was Dylan Jones, I think, down to turn number 1. This is going to be on the back straightaway, as it turns out. So we'll see what transpired here on this one, as Jones to the inside line and lifting off to let a good chunk of the field through down that back straightaway. Meanwhile, race is on for the lead. Lariah and Bowie going at it side by side in the drag race to turn number 1. The 34 car trying to hang on, but the Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet doing good work on that top side to try to find a way through.
I still go back to my original point that I made to start the show. If you know a person that's been on Twitter running their mouth for an entire week.
Trouble on the back straightaway.
Big caution.
Eberhard just got into the wall, and now we got more trouble into turn 3.
Well, they were pissed at each other a little earlier, too. If that was Dylan Jones and Eberhard, but they were pretty mad at one another earlier in the race. But Schmidt getting involved right there, that's not fun, because he had a good run going.
Couple of incidents in this one. We'll look at this one first. This was what brought out the yellow flag. William Schmidt attacking Cody Harris, and I think Bradley Burke kind of helped out at this one as well. Just a stack-up chain reaction caused 79 car to get up into the outside wall. That collected Grant Davis and Brandon Fetterplace, who made huge contact in the midst of all of that. I was watching Daniel Eberhard and Dylan Jones as well in the back straightaway. They made contact, and around the same time this started to kick off. Well, right on board here with Brandon Fetterplace, and we'll see how this one transpired from the view of the number 20.
We see him in front, just goes around, and then bam, look at the side they go.
That was not a good run so far, and Daniel Eberhard it looks like he'll be down and out for the count, and in fact, there's been a second incident under caution. So this was what started that all off, with a hard hit into the outside wall. Now let's keep with this here, because this actually did not end here. This went all the way around to the front straightaway, and I think it's going to result in a hefty penalty after the fact. You can see these cars already collected in that first caution period. Eberhard is smoking. You can tell he is damaged big time. That's tire smoke from tire rub on the actual body of the car. And, well, he went to the school. He needs to go to the school of trying to learn how to wreck somebody without wrecking yourself. That's a bit cut and dry right there, if you ask me.
Well, they were both pissed at each other from the initial jump. I mean, 2 restarts ago, or a restart ago, when we looked at the board with Dylan Jones down there in front of Michael Johnson, those two were blocking each other left and right, not giving any room whatsoever. So no surprise that when the caution flag was about to display, they shared their displeasure with one another, but not necessarily smart, and maybe not be Danica Patrick and try to wreck somebody without,
I wasn't gonna say it.
I'll say it.
Yeah, you can say it though.
I mean, I'm normally the butthole in the room where I don't care. I honestly don't care if somebody's mad at me at the end of the day or they're not. I mean, I'll call it like I see it. If you got people wrecking each other under caution, granted this is virtual, that's just as stupid as what you saw last week at Vegas in the Cup Series. Totally uncalled for. It's the same thing that I hate when I see people on social media that run their mouth and say that this track can't provide good 3-wide racing, and calls iRacing out to say that this track needs to be rescanned or redone, when you can go watch any race you want through the whole week. If you jump in an A Open or an A Fixed or whatever, the racing's been phenomenal. All week long, it's been phenomenal. But yet we go on social media just for clickbait to tell people that their opinion is better than everybody else's when they don't know they don't know what's right and what's wrong. They speak out of their tail.
Well, we'll get back to that and more hot takes with Terry Radford here in just a few moments. But for now, as we get set to go back to green flag racing, LeBron's going to be on the jump. Let's listen to the sights and sound of Homestead Miami Speedway with some RaceSpotTV fan immersion. LaRyan Silver still side by side down to turn number 1. Silver is clear as they've been swapping back and forth throughout the entirety of this restart. Brandon Bowie has been watching on from that 3rd position. What was that you said just a little while ago, Terry, about how this race hadn't been terribly eventful so far, and then all of this takes place?
Well, listen, I think I'd jinx it, but if you're Daniel Eberhardt in that situation, I think you got to know what the consequences are going to be behind that. This is a no-nonsense league, and I would imagine that he's not going to finish out the remainder of the season. I would imagine the penalty over here would be a little stronger than it was in NASCAR, that it would be a 2-race penalty plus some points, and the book will be handed at him for that right there. Because granted, you didn't pay attention to who was right next to that incident. That was Matt Danson. That was a playoff driver. If he slams him hard enough to take out Matt Danson right there, that takes Matt Danson's whole season down the drains because you go out there and you wreck the driver because you had an argument on the racetrack. So a little different across the board. It's not fair to Matt Danson. It wouldn't have been fair to the rest of the drivers out there on the racetrack to be swept up in the other mess as you see it here. These drivers pushing for everything they got. You see Castro trying to get back to the front. He's sitting in 6th. He's got Agnew Phillip sitting there he's trying to take that thing 3 wide in the middle.
And Phil's still looking for the hole. Has he found the hole? It looks like he has. Sean Casto going to be all the way on that inside line. And Minazzi Major going to get himself sorted from the top side. And he'll clear down into turn number 1 for that 5th position. Phil picks up 6th from Sean Casto. Here comes Bradley Burke. He wants to see if he can swipe away 7th place as well. That's the one bad thing about Homestead is if you end up getting stuck, you can be freight train left, right, and center. It's not exclusive to just the one line. I think that's something Sean Casto's really finding out the hard way here as he has continued to tumble down this field from the drop of the restart.
Yeah, we talked about that on the first restart there. Is you're going to find out who the drivers were that drove to the front off the initial jump. You know, who was the drivers that could make that leap all the way back 16, 17 positions up? Who's going to hold it now that we're on even playing field tire-wise? So far, Castro hadn't been able to hold it. He was obviously on the top of the Kayla Synthetic leaderboard for a while. He was on top of the playoff standings for a while as Kevin King really isn't having a performance of the agers either. He's sitting at 12th. He was able to leapfrog him points-wise as well, but it's kind of fell into everybody else's hands. I mean, you're seeing non-playoff drivers, Raleigh Grant Davis, Burke, Minazzi Major, Brandon Bowie. They're all up here racing for a chance to win, and now it's Nick Silver who sets sail and starting to set sights. He actually jumps on top of the live standings here. That would be nice for him to go to Phoenix and have a chance to win it.
Almost 3 wide down into turn number 1 there as Davis continues to scrap it out with Casto. Casto still having a rough time trying to hang on to spots. This is allowing Burke and others to get away while checking up everybody else. You got Harry Grindell in the mix of this fight here as Grindell trying to find some kind of hole up the middle line as Casto pushes way up the racetrack all the way up to the top groove. That'll allow Davis to get clear and push up in front of the Velocita 52, and now allow Grindell in the Team Kamikaze 70 Camry up the inside as well, as Sean Casto, I think, has got more of a long run car at this rate because that's where all the speed has come, right? It's been on that longest green flag run. On these short runs, I just don't think he's got it. I think he's got the tire saving strategy, but it just doesn't help you in the shorter sprints like this.
Yeah, I mean, he jumped up there to a large lead early in this race, and he started to pull away. The clean air kind of helped him. Once you get back in traffic, it gets a little bit more difficult to figure out your real estate and to put yourself in a position to where you want to be. You see Harry Grindell sitting there. He's under attack from the 31 of Kevin King. And before you know it, by the way, we're halfway through this race. So, I mean, it's kind of seemed like this race is flown by, and it has been eventful / uneventful at the same time, because I mean we saw the melee that happened there in the previous caution where Eberhardt is out of the race. William Smith is still out here turning some laps, but now you see the best battle on the racetrack would be the 10th place position between Freenage, Harry Grindell, and Kevin King, all sitting here trying to fight for this spot. And if you're Andrew Freenage, Nolan, you might want to see if how quick you can go up there and charge to the front to go get that top position.
To the outside of Kevin King goes Harry Grindell, but I think now Grindell finally starting to falter as King trying to find some speed in his team in Battle Beaver 31 Chevrolet. Up front, Agnel Phillip finding the inside of Michael Laraya, who Laraya in turn is trying to work his way back up through this field. We're once more back down to very, very easy runs here throughout this field, as single file with the occasional pass being made up on the top shelf. That's where a lot of moves have come from so far, isn't it? You got drivers getting those runs on the outside line, and from there, drivers are getting freight train from the bottom. And look at Minazzi Major at the moment. He's in a struggle with Agnel Phillip. He just lost out to Laraya, and he's about to lose out to Burke as well on top of all of this. That bottom lane is really starting to fall away as we drop more and more throughout this race.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom lane's kind of where everybody wanted to migrate to regardless of what we were doing. You see the outside still sort of kind of working across the board. This race is going to have ebbs and flows. I mean, we got 60, so we'll be 64 when we cross the line with Nick Silver. As Eric Stanford starting to close that race lead in. It was 1.5 seconds now. It's a half a second back. But you see this 3 wide move right here with Kevin King with Minazzi Major on the bottom. You see who is that in front of him, Bradley Burke. He's going to drop down to the bottom of him as well, try to make that position. Every lane is going to be used across the board. Not one lane is going to be more dominant than the other. Every lane could be used. It all depends on, you see the 52 up to the outside. He gets the draft down the back straightaway. He's going to push that machine all the way through. There's not one position out here that's not going to be gained, that's going to be easy, and I think these drivers are starting to realize that all 3 lanes have been utilized to perfection so far.
I agree. Drivers have been using every single lane so far to the most of their abilities so far throughout this race. The most popular ones have either been by the wall or down by the apron, but you still have guys trying to use that middle groove, and for some it has really been working thus far, and we'll continue to observe these drivers making these moves as time goes along. Stanford has taken the lead over from Nick Silver down the front straightaway that last time by, so yet another race leader, while the rest of the field continues to dice it out behind them. And now Silver actually trying to fight back into turns 1 and 2 from the bottom lane, but I think Stanford, with his late run pace, will be able to pull clear off of turn 2 and just get that run down the back straightaway to secure.
Yeah, and you see we go up here to the battle for the lead. Eric Stanford holds it with he got around Nick Silver, and he chased him down from 1.5 seconds to get the lead. So maybe Nick Silver pushed a little too hard on those tires. It kind of allowed his Ford counterpart to jump up here and take it, maybe using a little bit of the draft here to really work it. As you see 2 distinctive lanes. Eric Stanford rode that outside lane all the way through. Nick Silver's rode the bottom. And now it's allowed Brandon Bowie to kind of work his way in there. Not too close. He's not right up there ready to pounce, but it's definitely separated out as we go back here to the battle between Andrew Freenage and Bradley Burke.
Freenage on the bottom, Burke up top. I think it really says a thing or two when you've got such a seasoned driver and 2-time winner at Homestead like Andrew Freenage struggling as much as he is to try to make up speed. I mean, Freenage has said it before, this has been a car that has taken some time to get used to. He has been struggling all throughout the season on this one. We talked earlier about how this could very well be the season where Freenage gets knocked down and out. If he doesn't finish well here, though, it will be must win at Martinsville, and we know that that is the one place you don't want to be, because if you know you're a must win, there's at least 5 other people in the same boat, and they are more than ready to move you just like you're ready to move them to get that final spot into Phoenix for the season finale and the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. We are over halfway though, through tonight's 200-mile race still. So I want to take a quick rundown for your Kayla Synthetics midway race break, top to bottom throughout the field. Eric Stanford is 4/10 of a second clear from Nick Silver. Brandon Bowie rounds out the podium positions. Kevin King currently scrapping out that Phillip for 4th and 5th. They just traded hands down into turns 3 and 4. Michael Laraya sits in 6th place with Andrew Freenage in 7th. Bradley Burke sits 8th with Sean Casto, and San Diego rounding out 9th and 10th place. Bradley Burke kind of in the mix as well.
You see Cody Harris back there in 11th, got spun around a little earlier, saved that. Wetmore, Johnson, Danson, Davis, Major, top 16. And you go back there to 17th, you got Cato, Harry Grindell, Brandon Federplace, and Dylan Jones rounds out the top 20 with Schmidt and Eberhardt both off the racetrack in 20, or one off the racetrack, the others 2 laps down, 21st and 22nd.
That's a look top to bottom of your field here in the Kayla Synthetics midway race break. From now till the end of the playoffs, any customer that places an order for $100 or more will receive a complimentary 6-month preferred customer membership provided by Kayla Synthetics AMSOIL that will give you up to 25% on your current and future orders. All you have to do is contact them via Messenger on their Kayla Synthetics Facebook page, or call or text them at 785-813-1882, and they'll help you to get the discounted order placed. Dealer number 300711815. 56 laps to go from Homestead Miami Speedway as one by one drivers continue to work their way around. With how many cautions there early on, do you reckon pit stops are still in question here?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna pit one more time at least. They'll pit somewhere in the next. I would say they would start before 40 to go, and we'll kind of see where that takes us across the board. But you see right here, Brandon Bowie, he gets up there. He's going to take this lead, and it has allowed. You see here, first through fifth, a second away from one another. Agnell Phillip working his way up here. Nick Silver. There's Kevin King. Nice time to show up. He shows up with 55 to go.
And Kevin King finally finding some speed in that number 31 car as he continues to work his way throughout this race. This is going to get a bit interesting here as time goes along, as looks like King started to close in more and more on the top 2, and now up to second place, trying to make that run for the lead now as Stanford trying to fight back on the top shelf.
Yeah, he tries to go up there. Eric Stanford, who tries to make that outside go, isn't necessarily going to be able to get it so far. Now he goes down to the bottom. He's going to look for this position, and out of nowhere, Kevin King, he is going to take the lead. Was not what we were expecting.
King to the point after he struggled so much early on in this race. Your pole sitter trying to find a way through, and he is finally going to be through in this one, making that pass down the back straightaway 1 lap ago. Started on pole, fell all the way back to about 12, and he is finally going to be back into competition. Stanford so far has gained the most spots out of anybody. He started way back in 21st place after not qualifying. He now runs up in 3rd, although he's about to fall to 4th as Agnell Phillip is going to look for his inside down to the turn number 1 of the A51 Pro Chevrolet. Field is really spread out so far. It's about a half straightaway or a full straightaway now from the front to the back of this main grouping. The number 20 car, Brandon Federplace, along with Dylan Jones and William Schmidt, are the only drivers not really in this field so far. Everybody else kind of clustered all up into the same grouping here. As we continue to slowly work our way through the Homestead 200 on what has been our longest green flag run so far tonight. And I think we finally got all of the early race shenanigans kind of out of our systems early on.
Yeah, finally got them all out. And with 51 to go, coming to 50, Kevin King showed up when he needed to, showed up when he had to, and we'll see if he can actually be the one to pull away from this lead. Hearing that Danson and Johnson could have had some issues here. See if we can find a replay eventually of that, as there it is.
This is going to be a solid. It's going to be a solid maybe on this one. I think we're a lap early, or might be a lap late on scene here with this one. This would have been all the way back on lap number 80 as Danson looked for the inside coming down the front straightaway and into turn number 1. I think this is it right here. Pushes up and clears, and right there's the contact. That sends Danson scrambling way down to the apron, halfway down towards that inside wall. Barely lifted though, barely lost any time, and immediately got back by him in the next corner when Grant Davis and Johnson made contact.
Yeah, made contact there, and you know, at the end of the day, I don't think it necessarily, well, I can't say it doesn't necessarily matter, but that's a big playoff implication. But Matt Hansen still sits in the 12th place position as you look right here with the 80 of Andrew Freenage. He works his way up to second, and him and Kevin King were kind of sleeping back there, the top three. Now people that sit 10th, 11th, and 12th for a long time.
I think at this point we're in that rhythm of the race where everybody's kind of trying to play the mind games now. Everybody's trying to figure out who's going to go where, who's going to make these types of moves first. Are we going to be wanting to work our way through this race a bit clean and throughout the rest of this? When do we want to start actually battling it out as if we like really meet it, as if it is the last lap of this race? Do you wait until it's later in this race? At this point, we're nearing that final third as well. I think we just entered the final third of this race. So time is really starting to run out. Under 50 to go. Silver up on the top shelf with Michael Araya right beside him. Cody Harris, Nick Silver, and Sam Nieto kind of in a battle of their own right behind this main grouping here with Agno, Phillip, Andrew Freenage, and Brandon Bowie. There you see the 79 up top. That's William Schmidt. He is now 3 laps down, having been lapped just a few laps ago by race leader Kevin King, and continuing to trot through the field. Schmidt collected in his fair share of incidents so far this race, as Nieto's going to scramble to the inside of the Race Labs Mustang.
Yeah, he gets down here. You see Nick Silver, he jumps up to that outside trying to get back around these drivers. And what a comeback so far for Cody Harris. He sits P6 as you look up and down the board. Not too long ago, we were looking at him in an incident, and now he's starting to climb back up here and kind of show why he should be in contention for a playoff spot into the Final Four, as he's going to try to chase Lariah down on the inside here. It's William Schmidt, not for position. That is a lap down machine on the outside of this track, but Cody Harris trying to get around Michael Lariah. All right, as Brandon Bowie's the first one to come down pit lane with 45 to go.
Green flag pit stops underway. This will be the pit stops that will put these guys to the end of this race, as Nick Silver and William Schmidt getting set to do battle amongst themselves in the middle of this field, while Schmidt continues to hang it on that outside line, just trying to get out of the way of all of these drivers that are trying to scramble through on the bottom. Now you're trying to put yourself in an opportune position to be able to kind of hold these guys up a little bit when you're getting set to make it down to pit road, giving you that upper hand on your outlaps. Coming to the pit road is going to be Eric Stanford and Ross Cato with a huge sideways moment off of turn number 4. Thought he was at first trying to come down the lane, but that was not the case. Way loose, but managed to wrestle it back on the front stretch.
Yeah, that could have been big right there for Ross Cato, and luckily it wasn't big. Luckily it didn't trap anybody a lap down, but none of our playoff drivers have come down yet, so nothing too wild. We're not going to see anybody necessarily find themselves in some issues, as you know, Nick Silver will be the first one to come down pit lane. You don't want to pull a Kurt Busch. At that time, he actually locked it up right there in front of Riley Grant Davis, who jumps on pit lane with him. No harm, no foul, as now you see Sam Nieto and Cody Harris going side by side into turns 1 and 2 down the back straightaway.
Neither line able to get himself a solid momentum down into turn number 3, so they were dead even off of 2. Oh, they're going to rub doors a little bit. That's going to nudge Cody Harris up the racetrack and kind of unsettle the 28. Now, Sam Nieto's going to have the upper hand on the nose, as Sean Casto is going to bail out from the main pack and come down into the lane, as one by one, drivers continue to tick their way through. There's Brandon Bowie unlapping himself from the outside line on fresh tires. That's what the speed difference is from fresh rubber to old tires, as Casto enters the box.
Yeah, Casto finally comes down pit lane here, and that'll put him back to the 12th place position. You take a look right here at Kevin King. He's done what he had to do, right? He sat back, he was patient, he waited his time, and then he made a charge to the front. He made the charge to the front rather quickly, and now he sits convincingly in the lead. So now that he sits up here 2.5 seconds, if you're Andrew Freenage or Agnell Phillip, you have to short pit him. You have to hope that you can catch him by surprise and come down pit lane, and then maybe just maybe, you'll find yourself ahead of him, but you're going to have to find yourself ahead of him by quite a bit because he has a really fast 31 Team Chevrolet.
"40 laps to go from Homestead Miami Speedway as Burke and Cato were the latest drivers to come on down, leaving first on back to ninth, all on the racetrack still, or at least I should say on the lead lap, as Ross Cato has just left pit road, now all the way back in 20th place, the last driver besides William Schmidt, who is 3 laps down. Kevin King still waiting on your race leader to come on down into the pit lane. King at the moment is going for the overcut strategy, so he is hoping that he'll be able to go out long and then make up all of that speed later in the run on his fresher tires by trying to see if he can gap the field over the long run, whereas the others are going to have to work on maintaining the gap. Brandon Bowie has just unlapped himself from race leader Kevin King. Since pit road delta is around 44-ish seconds before tire stop, that essentially guarantees King is going to be losing the lead on this next set of pit stops here.
Yeah, I would almost guarantee that he might lose the lead here. But if you think about it, if a caution comes out, right, and I say if because this has been a fairly clean-ish race. I can't necessarily say it's been super clean, but it's been clean enough to maybe think that maybe the caution could come out eventually if you see moves like this where we're 3 wide and we're loose on the bottom as Michael Araya almost took Nick Silver with him. And you got fresh tires, old tires mixed together in this bunch. This could get hairy, and if you're Kevin King or Andrew Freenage or Phillip, I would think to come down in the next lap or two to kind of put yourself on the same even platform as the rest of them.
Nobody opted to come on down this time around. Brandon Bowie currently sits as the net race leader in the number 34 car now. Eric Stanford closing in, though, on Kevin King as he's trying to lap himself as well. And he's got Lariah and Silver right behind him in the fight for 11th, 12th, and 13th on the racetrack, and what will end up being net P2 on the circuit at the moment. Closing in on lap 100, which will mean 35 laps to go. Oh, they're going to split Kevin King as Stanford goes at the top. Lariah takes Silver down low. That's going to give Stanford a couple of car lengths advantage here as Silver going to quickly rejoin up with Lariah and Stanford up the road.
Yeah, he joins up here, and we'll see who decides to come down pit lane this time. Looks like none of our top 9 come down. As you see back here, 10th on back have come down pit lane. All of these drivers trying their hardest to get up in some type of position to put yourself in an opportunity to win. I mean, Brandon Bowie was sitting P2 when he decided to come down pit lane. Now he's 26 seconds back. He's already caught Brandon Fetter place. He moves up a position. Now Brandon Fetter place comes down pit lane as well. So a lot of change is going to happen over this run, and I'm still kind of surprised that we haven't seen the drivers that came in on lap 43 come down yet.
As Fetter Place hits pit road, we continue to wait to see where your race leaders are going to be making their stops, as the last pit stops that King through Johnson came down was all the way back on lap 57. We're now rounding lap 101. So I think these guys are more taking it to the end of their fuel, whereas opposed to the other guys are more splitting this stint going 50-50. So now King is going to be able to work his way around this race and try to see if he can put himself into a good points scoring position. You know it's going to be a rough run, though, at the moment for Kevin King, because he's only going to be finding himself further and further down the racetrack. At this point, he's going to be at least, I would say, 10 seconds by now off of Brandon Bowie. That's a lot of time to make up in just under 30 laps.
I wouldn't necessarily say he's going to be down a ton. So if you look over here at the lap times, he's still only about a second and a half faster across the board. So I think if you're Kevin King and you're Freenage and Phillip and all of these other drivers in the playoffs, I mean, you see your top 6 is your playoff drivers. If you're one of these drivers, what you're thinking is well, the moment I come down pit lane, yep, they've kind of evened me. They've got me on tires. Let them burn it up getting through the field. And then take your last 30 laps and just go. Because you know they can't. So even if something happens, well, you're already there. I mean, that time by, it was a 35-4 for Kevin King. You look over here at Brandon Bowie, the 34-0. So he had a second and a half over him that time. And then Eric Stanford was a whole lot faster. But they can't consistently keep that pace up. That pace is going to fall off eventually. And it's going to continuously fall. As now here we're at 30 to go. He ain't flinching.
At this point, these guys have committed to the strategy. You can't bail out by now. You have really got to make sure that you make this count wherever you can. You have to try to capitalize on every single move at this point throughout the rest of this race. It's at the point where Brandon Bowie is about to lap Michael Johnson. He's about 7 seconds back, so I'd say that's about maybe 3, 4, 5-ish laps away from passing the number 39 car. Now that is really big because he's going to find himself trying to pass that car before he's even pitted. Agno Phillip, though, finally bailing out. He's going to come down to pit road and go early. This will be a good indicator then of where Kevin King is going to be coming out if you just subtract about another couple of seconds from it, as Phillip will come down to take his 4 tires and fuel stop. We now wait on King back through Johnson. That's first through 7th that still have to pit.
Well, I'd imagine that he's not going to come down this time because he moves down there, lets Ross Cato go. Freenage isn't coming. Mieto's going to come. Cody Harris is going to come. And you see how aggressive they're getting on pit lane. I mean, they're locking it up the moment they get. I know, and Tom Wetmore, he really got aggressive back there. But you talked about Brandon Bowie actually catching Michael Johnson. He's only 2 seconds back. So 2 seconds back to catch the driver that was on the cusp of the top 10 at that moment. Pretty good indicator of where they're sitting. And now you see Kevin King. Is he coming down this time? He's not peaking. Nope, still staying out.
Kevin King really committing to the long strategy here, as Danson will hit pit road in the 38 Logitech G Ultra Seat Sports Chevrolet. Behind him, Brandon Bowie gets a little bit unsettled actually on the racetrack, and he'll lose a bit of time up to Johnson, but he'll reel that back in before too much time has passed. Still waiting on first, second, and third. Freenage among the drivers that we have not seen come on down and pit just yet, but they're going to be down before long. At the moment, Kevin King is being unlapped by Harry Grindell. Grindell putting himself back up onto the lead lap here at the moment as Kevin King continues to falter. He's now a little bit loose as well at the corners. I think Kevin King's got to be coming down here within the next 2-3 laps or so as Bowie will take off. Still your net race leader by about 4 seconds or so back to Nick Silver.
Yeah, your net leader there. And you also have to think, you look back, 31 seconds. Here comes the leader, Kevin King. Now Andrew Freenage is going to lead this race. Look at the net race for a second. Because if you go all the way back to the people who pitted on lap 105, that would be Agno Phillip. He just ran a 33.72. Brandon Bowie just ran a 34.4. Not too crazy lap time difference, right? And everybody in here would agree with me that lap time went too wild as Andrew Freenage is going to come down here. Now let's think consistency for a second because Michael Johnson hasn't pitted yet. He's running 35.8s on 50 lap old tires. If my math is right, which it never is, we was lap 91. We had 40 to go. 40 to go. Yeah, there we go. My math was right. Had 40 laps to go at lap 90. We were on our longest run right there, and we pushed over 50 laps. And that's when we started seeing these lap times come out. I mean, lap 43, we're well past that of when they came down pit lane. So it's going to be interesting to see who was able to do what. As Andrew Freenage is going to come off of the pit lane, try not to pull a Ryan Blaney, and now just hope that your strategy works, because you got 24 laps to go make up 20-plus seconds.
To be exact, it is 21.7 seconds to be made up from Kevin King up to Brandon Bowie. Bowie himself is 4.8 seconds clear of Nick Silver, so it's a lot of time to make up and a lot of traffic to work through. I don't think Kevin King's going to have the time to get this done. I think he made a sorely big miscalculation. We'll have to compare the lap times as this run continues to develop and see just how they shake up. As meanwhile, Sean Casto, Michael Johnson, they'll continue to scrap it amongst themselves, as now all the battles on track are actually for position. Johnson with problems pulling off to the inside, and that will not force a caution. I don't think it will, at least. He is... What on earth is Johnson doing? Oh, he's trying to get to pit road. That's what he's doing here. And he's going to come on down and in. That's unusual. He didn't blow up. I wonder if maybe he miscalculated something, or possibly a technical failure of some sort, because he just kind of went straight and then pulled down.
I think he just missed pit road altogether. He was on old tires, trying to get her down and going. Couldn't get it. Couldn't figure it out. And I mean, that's costly time. I mean, he spent about 30 seconds down there on the inside of the track trying to back up to come onto pit lane. Now we just got to see. You see Casto and Lariah fighting here. It was a second faster back there for Kevin King. He's chopped down from 20, so he's 20-plus seconds back. He's now 16. Nieto's catching him. Harris is right there with him. You're Brandon Bowie. They're catching him a second a lap.
On board with Kevin King, he is now up to 11th place and continuing to rise. Now only 16.6 seconds back. Still not out of the question, but still has to make up all that time in just 20 laps. The good news is it's not like he's having to run down over a second a lap here to catch up to his opponent up the road. And yet, that is exactly what he's doing. In fact, he was almost 3 seconds quicker than Brandon Bowie that last lap alone. Bowie ran a 34.8. Kevin King ran a 33.2, so he was about a 1.6 seconds quicker that last time by. So King has the pace. It's going to be working to work his way through the traffic safely without getting collected in any further incidents as the night goes along.
Well, I think we might have overshadowed our boy Agnell Phillip, because he's 8th. And our man right there pitted on lap 105. So, if anybody's going to catch him at 11 seconds, Agnell Phillip's in a good position because he's ahead of Kevin King. He's got a better chance than anybody. He sits P2 right now in the playoff standings at the moment. I mean, this is as they run. And look how it's changed. Danson's down by 6. Nieto's out by 1. Harris is out by 5. This is not what we saw coming into this race, and yet here we sit.
This whole race has kind of been overturned on its head as a result of that pit strategy. There's a lot to be uncovered yet as this race goes along. And, of course, it's only going to take one caution to kind of throw all of these strategy battles completely to the wind. As now Bowie even starting to lose a bit of time back to Nick Silver. That gap down to just 3.5 seconds, down from the 4.8 that it was at one point, a little bit deeper in this run. So Bowie started to lose some significant pace as Federplace just unlapped himself. Bowie for the first time breaks into the 35 second range, not where he wants to be. Agnell Phillip still running high 33s. Kevin King, where is Kevin King located? He's still running low 33s. Brandon Bowie's lead is nowhere near secure just yet as Grant Davis and Eric Stanford duke it out for that final spot in the top 5.
Yeah, this is also helping the guys who pitted to catch into this. I mean, you see the 19 of Stanford Burke right there with Agnell Phillip jumping to his inside. That puts all of them back under a blanket. You see Kevin King bring it into the picture as well. And fresh tires is going to do this. You saw Agnell Phillip, he jumped down, he got the 2-for-1 special. He's going to go chase the 24 of Grant Davis now, trying to work his way into the 5th place position. And look at the board here. Even though Castro sits in 3rd, he's still 1 point out from Sam Nieto, who's all the way back there in the 10th place position. Ever since he made that pass there on Cato, it brought him above where he needed to be. So 1 point there. And now you see the difference of 4 laps tires as Kevin King has ran Agnell Phillip down. He's going to jump to the outside. And don't know if it's going to be a whole lot easy, but it's going to be something when they go into 1.
Kevin King up to the top shelf. Agnell Phillip trying to run down low to overtake the 31, but King is through on Phillip and now clear for 4th. 6.8 seconds back from Bowie. Still running down. Casto and Silver still stand in the way of Kevin King and your race leader. And Brandon Bowie has got to be checking that black box with your standings over and over and over as he continues to work his way deeper and deeper into the race here tonight. 13 laps to go. Time is running out. Kevin King's lap times, though, are starting to grow. The advantage of the fresh tires is starting to drop off that little bit. I don't think it'll drop off enough, though, that it'll impact him before he gets to Bowie.
I mean, he has 4.5 seconds he's got to make up. He catches the back bumper, the 52 of Casto. He'll make that move pretty easy. But you talk about lap times going down. It was a 35.1 for the race leader. It was a 33.8 for Kevin King, 34.8. It was a full second. I mean, from Silver to King, and then all the way to Agnell Phillip. I mean, Agnell was in 34.1. So nothing too crazy up and down the board, but the lap times of the tires. Kevin King's done something right.
I agree with on that one. He's done something right, and whatever he's done, it is working wonders for him at the moment as he'll continue to pile on the pressure to the drivers up the road. 3.4 seconds out. He's right on the back of Nick Silver. And this is going to be an easy move here. Oh, Silver bobbles off of 2. And that's going to kind of scare King a little bit. He's going to shoot to the inside. 3 seconds and closing on Brandon Bowie now with nothing between them.
Kind of tired of calling Kevin King the win. Yeah, all he does is win. But I mean, he's a talented driver, so you can't take that away from him. All right, he's going to be a great addition to the Contender Series, working his way back into the Cokes, or well, what was the Peak Series back then. See if he could do it in the Xfinity cars to get to the next gen. He's definitely figured something out when it comes to the next gen cars. So I would say 2023 Coke Series. You want to circle a guy right now that could be a potential spoiler and maybe call a shot a little early that this could be the 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series champion. We might be calling him here in RSR.
Kevin King has been one of those drivers that is already secured, but he has been going for all the glory he possibly could, chasing win number 8, an unprecedented number for most of the drivers in this series. Kevin King has so far been on an absolute tear throughout the entirety of this race, right down from when he won his first race of the season, way back when, near the season opener. I believe his first win was over at Talladega earlier this season. And then, of course, he got several other wins, including New Hampshire, Pocono, make it up for Richmond, Darlington, the Charlotte Roval, most recently at Vegas, and he's going to go around the outside and to the point here in Homestead, trying to tick off win number 8.
He's been on a string ever since I got over here and started calling races from Bristol Dirt. Obviously, the week after was Talladega, and he wins. And then he goes on and he wins more and more and more and more. And it's been amazing to watch him throughout this season. just grow more confident in these cars, to grow more confident in the series, and put himself in a good position to win these races. And the strategy was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. The fact that he waited to the very end and then jumped up, it was brilliant right now for Andrew Freenage. He's climbing through the field as well. I mean, his lap times are a little bit slower, but it's been the same across the board. He's actually 0.2 faster than Kevin King is, and he's much faster than the drivers in front of him as well. But he's going to make some positions up and put himself in still a must-win position going into Martinsville next week.
Yeah, I remember when we touted Brandon Six as being a driver to look out for at the start of the season as a driver that could be a serious threat. He won 4 out of the first 10 races, but he didn't win anything since then. That's when Kevin King really came into advantage, and he is chasing a record at the moment. Andrew Freenage, I believe, has the most records for race wins in a single season. That was back for 9 wins in 2021. Kevin King has enough races left. He could absolutely beat that record if he completely locks out the rest of this season. The pace he's shown, though, proves he has got the ability to get that done.
Yeah. I mean, if not, he's going to have to tie it, because the winner of the championship is going to have to win Phoenix. I mean, let's be real here. The Final 4 going into Phoenix, you better believe. I don't think the winner of the championship in the Cup Series in real world is going to be the champion. Like, whoever wins the race isn't going to necessarily be the champion. I could see a Kyle Larson or a Tyler Reddick spool in that party, but here in RSR, there ain't been a spool of a party. Nobody's necessarily come in here other than Talladega and rained on the parade of our playoff drivers, and I don't see that being the case when we actually get to Phoenix as well. It's tighter than ever. Nick Silver's only out by 1. Danton and Harris are tied. I mean, it's closer than ever going to the paperclip.
You take a look at the live standings over on the right side of your screen, and it's even closer for that cut line. The first driver in, first driver out, and the second driver out have only 1 point between the 3 of them. Danson and Harris at the moment as they sit are tied for that final position going into Martinsville. About the worst case scenario, and Nick Silver is just 1 point out, and only another 4 points back is that of Sean Castill. Freenage has not been able to capitalize so far here today. He's gained a lot of points by being up there in that 3rd position, but his big problem is that Phillip and King have taken away the top 2 spots, and the other drivers he needs to finish poorly have finished relatively well so far this race. All of your playoff drivers are in the top 9 except for Brandon Bowie. I think that really says something to how competitive these drivers are in this 2022 playoff field as Danson gets set to run his way around. He's still fighting down for 8th place. If he can secure 1 more spot, he'd be able to have that 1 point advantage on Harris, and he's going to need every point he can possibly get as he comes on down into that final race in this round of 8 at Martinsville. But for Kevin King, he makes the race official and makes it around to that white flag as he gets set to roll his way around the Homestead Miami Speedway for the final time today. He didn't come into this season as one driver that we thought would be in for a shout. He had a quiet start to the season, but now chasing win records tied with a 3-time champion, or at least he will be if he can secure it at Martinsville. For now, though, for Kevin King, it is win number 8 of the season as he will sweep it at Homestead.
That was a really good win for the 31 machine. They said it last week when he won. They said we're going to 3 really good racetracks for him, and then you got Phoenix as well. So I think everybody's kind of circled that you're either going to have to wreck him or outpace him. At some point in time, you're going to have to outpace him.
As the last of the drivers is coming across the start-finish line now, we'll take a look down of your official Kayla Synthetics full race results as Kevin King gets set to burn it down on the front straightaway. At this point, all the burnouts starting to blend together with how many wins this man has racked up over what has been, I would say, by far one of his best races he's ever had in the RSR competition. Kevin King wins the race by 2.7 seconds over Agnell Phillip. Andrew Freenage is back in third. San Diego will be in fourth with Nick Silver to round out the top 5. Brandon Booth, the only playoff driver to break it up from being a playoff driver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8th, will be in 6th. Harris will be in 7th. Matt Danson is in 8th. Sean Castle, the last of the playoff drivers, is back in 9th, with Grant Davis rounding out the top 10.
Let me see back here in 11th. Slarig, Bradley Burke, Ross Cato, Eric Stanford, Manatzi Major, Harry Grindell, Tom Wetmore in 17th, Michael Johnson, William Smith, and Brandon Fetter place. A couple laps down back there, and then the remainder of the field. We'll see Dylan Jones, Daniel Eberhardt, and Eric Papanow. That's after 23 car field here.
Now to round out your Kayla Synthetics full race results from Homestead Miami Speedway. Kayla Synthetics is an independent dealer of AMSOIL lubricants serving the United States and Canada, providing custom engine lubrication solutions to all types of customers, from private individuals to race teams, hauling fleets, and everything in between. They have the products and expertise to help you save time and money. Dealer number 30071815. And from now till the end of the playoffs, any customer that places an order of $100 or more will receive a complimentary 6-month preferred customer membership provided by Kayla Synthetics AMSOIL that will give you up to 25% off your current and future orders. All you need to do is contact them via Messenger on their Kayla Synthetics Facebook page, or call or text them at 785-813-1182, and they'll help you to get your discounted order placed. Kevin King has taking it off of the racetrack. We're still waiting to see if he's going to give us the chance to talk to us up here in the broadcast booth for this one. But I have to say, Terry, I mean, this is about as good of a race as you could hope for from Homestead Miami Speedway. You had all of the chaos take place early on, but you had just enough time left to let one heck of a strategy battle pan out throughout the middle duration of this race.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good race all the way around, and nothing... one wild incident happens, and then we go green to the end, and it allowed the strategy to play out and do what Kevin King needed it to do.
Kevin King has tied up Freenosh's win record from last season, and he's only one off. He will not be able to get the official record. That stands at 15, also set by Freenosh. But hey, 2 out of 3 is not bad at all. We'll see if we can get a talk now with your race winner, Kevin King. Join us in victory lane. Kevin, it is win number 8 for you, and at this point you're one away from besting or tying it up with Freenosh from his 2021 record. How does it feel to go for 2 out of 3 in the round of 8?
Feels really good. I doesn't really have any expectations going in, but I ran FTF on Saturday and I got zero information out of that, and then I ran NIS last night and I felt really good about my pace and how I was driving, and I was a little concerned earlier. I felt like I was on the verge of going and making up ground, and the yellows would come out. So I was wondering it's going to be one of those interesting in-between strategy races, but I kind of just rolled the dice there when Agnell pit and Brandon short pit by quite a bit, and I was just hoping I gave myself enough time because I didn't really exactly know how fast I had to go to try to catch them, but once I started seeing the gap drop pretty quickly, I was pretty confident. I just didn't need a yellow, so I'm really happy that it turned out the way in my favor.
So obviously this is win number 8. If you weren't locked in before, I mean you were locked in before, but you're even more locked in now. You've taken away one confirmed spot for somebody else in this grid. Obviously next one up is Martinsville. You don't have to worry at all. In fact, I would dare say you don't even really need to show up for that race at all, but I have a feeling you absolutely will. So what's going to be the plan? See if you can bump your way up to the front, or just kind of ride in the back and try to survive the paperclip?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, everyone in here is really respectful, so I don't think we'll have a ton of yellows, maybe up front initially, but I think it'll kind of calm itself down. So I think it's, I just got to figure out what the car does over the long run, and maybe run. Hopefully I don't have to shift, but I'm guessing I will have to. But I'm not going to shy away, try to win. I want to do the best I can, give myself as much momentum going to Phoenix as possible. But I'll definitely not, I'm not going to overstep my boundaries, and I understand other people are trying to get in there too. I'm not going to be super selfish with that stuff. I just, I want to run a good race, clean race, and if I get myself in a position to win, then I definitely will go for it. But I'm not gonna push it too much.
And obviously, I think the sights will be more on Phoenix at this point in time than with your championship. Are you already undergoing preparations for that final race in the Final Four on November the 7th, or is it still 1 week at a time?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish I could, but I have Contender Series I got to worry about actually at the same track. So I'm actually running a different car, getting prepared for that. So it's going to help a little bit just in terms of being consistent and knowing what the track's like. And then once that's over, I can kind of focus on the next race, even though we have a race right after that at Homestead here with the same car. So I think I'll be okay. I have a pretty good feeling for that track anyways. I just got to figure out how this car drives on it and go from there. And I think all the preparation I'm doing for the Contender Series will actually help me there. So I don't think I'll have to spend too much time on this car, hopefully.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk to you once again, Kevin, and hopefully you'll be finding yourselves with a solid run at Martinsville and then, in fact, the season finale to see if you can usurp Andrew Freenos from the throne. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us, and best of luck next week in Virginia.
Thanks so much, Nolan. Appreciate it.
This is Kevin Kane joining us up here from Victory Lane in the number 31 car. Going to move on down through the order to the A51 Pro Chevrolet, headed up by Agnell Phillips, standing by with Terry Radford.
Man, Agnell Phillips, been a minute since we've talked from P2, huh?
Yeah, I'm getting a little too used to finishing second to Kevin here. Hopefully it'll be a little bit. Hopefully it can put up more of a fight in the coming weeks. But yeah, no, good result overall though.
Well, I mean, I would imagine that you're pretty safe going into Martinsville, right? Because you're sitting second. You've got a pretty decent, pretty healthy point lead going in. Mindset going into Martinsville, are you already, oversighting it, thinking, okay, Phoenix, let's get some practice to maybe dethrone that 31 machine, or are you week by week here?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of a catch-22 because, I do want to put some time into Phoenix this week just to prepare in case I make it through, but it is Martinsville, and one of the guys outside the cut could win, and then suddenly the point situation might look a little different. I haven't actually seen what my gap is to third and to fourth as well, to kind of gauge, estimate kind of what sort of finish I would need. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to prepare for Martinsville as close to what I think the real the normal amount would be, and try to put some laps in for Phoenix as well. At the end of the day, if we go to Martinsville and don't finish well and miss the cut, then I won't care that I did a few extra laps at Phoenix, but I do want to make sure if I do make the Final Four, I'm putting my best foot forward. And clearly there's a gap to be made up here, and I want to be able to try and make up that gap.
Yeah, you'll get some free practice in the NIS if you run it this week, or you run any officials in this A car. But man, it's almost over. Season's almost over. Got any off-season plans? Any fishing expeditions, or are you going to run the 10 race Xfinity season?
I mean, I'll probably run the Xfinity season. We'll see. That it'd be good to get experience with that. If I try to make another run at Pro next year, having more seat time in the B car, which I honestly haven't driven much at all this year, would be good. But other than that, just try to take it easy. I last year during the off season, I didn't race at all, not necessarily by my choice, but just because of what was going on in my life at that time. I do want to try to build on the gains that I feel like I've made this year and try to translate that into even higher performance next year. But I'm not gonna be putting in probably anywhere near the hours that I have been putting into this point. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a grind, but I can't call myself new anymore. I've done this a couple of times, so I kind of knew what to expect going in to the season. I feel like I paced myself well, and even though it's clearly not quite good enough at this point to really challenge Kevin consistently, I feel like I'm still kind of peaking at the right time, and hopefully we can push that peak even higher. If not, try to come back next year and just raise the level so that when that peak comes, it'll be where it needs to be.
Well, if I decide to make a run at Road to Pro next year too, in Pro, hopefully we can have some sort of alliance, maybe even a same team. But thank those sponsors that put that beautiful car on the track this week.
Yeah, I gotta thank the A51 Pro team. It's the off season, so things have been really quiet, but guys have been kind of on their own time working a little bit at getting acclimated to the B car, so it's been cool to kind of see that happen. And just gotta thank you all and Evan for putting this league on. Really is kind of one of the highlights of my iRacing year, and definitely of every week. So really enjoy doing this. So yeah, gonna get ready as best I can. Try to put on a good show the next couple of weeks. Finish off the year strong.
That's what we like to hear. That tag will fill up P2, and I'll get that Freenage guy too. The guy finishes P3 here this afternoon. I'll take my normal spot with him as soon as we pull him up here to us. Andrew Freenage, this is my normal interview spot. You finished P3 here tonight, but you go into Martinsville in a, here I must say, a must-win situation. How do you face that?
Yeah, we went in there one time in a must-win and was able to pick it up, but this car is just so out of left field. Martinsville, anything could happen, so we're just gonna go in there. If we can, we'll throw different strategies if we don't have the speed, and we'll practice a whole bunch and see what we can do. But like I said, I feel like we're playing with house money this year. Just haven't been great in this car, and we're not the best for once, so we're just gonna go in there as underdogs and see what we can do. If we make it, we make it. If not, it was a good season, and we'll go to Phoenix and try to just have fun there.
Well, I try to draw this out of everybody who finishes third in that must-win situation. Say the last corner, last lap. Are we looking Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano? Are we looking Rusty Wallace, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, potentially moving people out of the way?
Yeah, that as much as I'd like to say that, go in there and that's not my style. I've won enough that I don't think I can do that. So, we've had our time in the sun for the last 4 years. There's no reason to go in and rattle someone's cage and wreck someone for a win. We've had our time, and if we want to make it, we want to do it clean. So.
I figured I could kind of goat that one out of there. Maybe see if you'd put a little bumper to him. Maybe make him think that maybe this is maybe Andrew's not driving the car this week. Maybe he let Terry drive it for a week, and I mean that would be kind of scary. You probably wouldn't even finish on the lead lap, especially in these cars. I prided myself on the trucks this season, but you got a winner next week, man. Thank those sponsors, and let's look forward to a wonderful 250 laps around Martinsville next week.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting. Big shout out to Battle Beaver, Tom, for coming on the car, putting this whole thing together. I didn't plan on running this year, and he came up with this great deal. And they make custom Xbox, PS4, GameCube controllers. Everyone go check them out. That's Battle Beaver. Them to come on board just to run this year. I feel so blessed. All the fans who are watching, I hope we put on a good show. All the drivers, love racing every single week with these guys. Big shout out to all my friends, family, Sean, Una, my dad, everyone who hooks up with this hobby. I know it's a lot, but I appreciate its support. And you guys for another broadcast. Do a great job every week. Love watching it back.
That was probably the best interview I've had all season, so I appreciate that. That was good. Nolan, that was Andrew Freenage, P3 here this afternoon, and he had a lot of people.
He certainly did, and I think that's going to be something to also keep in mind is, that he's going to have those supports as well going into Martinsville. He's going to certainly need them. He is in a critical position now in the championship. He got a good finish here, but it was not the finish that he so desperately needs. It's pretty much going to be must-win now if Freenage wants to get himself into that final race, where he's got to hope the drivers ahead of him simply don't show up, which, let's be honest, we know the odds of that happening. But it's the paperclip up next. The world's fastest paperclip is what it has often been dubbed. The Martinsville Speedway, often regarded as one of the most physical tracks on the NASCAR calendar. Terry, I think this is going to be one of those races where we could be seeing a lot of emotions that have been building over the season come right to the forefront.
Absolutely. I particularly am going to go rack up some wins in the trucks here this week. I will try my hand at these next gen cars and see how much they shift. Maybe go do a couple officials. So people, if you're watching and you want to come race with me, just hey, shoot me a message on the Twitter, and I'll come jump in a race with you. Who knows? My rating's there, but it's going to be fun next week. The last race to get into the championship for Kevin King's locked. I would imagine Agnell Phillips locked. It's going to come down to crucial mistakes. That's going to come down to that final race, and I'm still sticking to my guns. I still don't think that, Matt Danson's going to make it.
We'll get to all of that and more next week, but for now, from the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series from Homestead Miami Speedway, it is about to all kick off. It's going to be a tie for that final points position with 1 point back. So it's a three-way fight for that final precious spot on the points. You'll be able to catch it all here. Same time, same place on RaceSpotTV. From now, I've been Nola Remble with Terry Radford beside me in the broadcast booth. Joshua Lee, once again, doing a great job behind the cameras. We'll see you next week where we get set to get rough and rowdy at Martinsville, Virginia.